Hi there, this is Megan Mitchell with Agents of Change Social Work Test Prep, and I'm here today to bring you another social work shorts, which are short videos on either content or strategy to help you achieve success on the ASWB exam. And today our topic is going to be Freud's psychosexual stages. So I do want to preface this by saying that Freud's theories are hundreds of years old. So they might seem a little silly or outdated, and that's because they are. So just take that, keep that in the back of your mind. There are a lot of criticisms of these, that they're not based in research, and we have come a long way since these stages were proposed by Freud. So Freud believed that psychological development took place in fixed stages. So these fixed stages are going to be the different stages of how someone from infancy to death developed. And Freud believed if a child does not resolve a conflict at one of these stages, that fixations will occur. And we will talk a little bit more about that. And these fixations, he believed, came from tension between the id and the superego. Freud believed in psychosexual energy, which he referred to as the libido. So if you ever see the term libido, it was coined from Freud. And he believed that this libido was the driving force behind human behavior. So the first stage of psychosexual development is the oral stage. And this begins at birth all the way up to around 18 months. It's around 1 year to 18 months. And at this stage, as it states, an infant is interested and is stimulated from the mouth. So Freud believed that this gratification was coming from stimulation from the mouth. This would include sucking and tasting. At this age, obviously, infants are putting everything in their mouth. That's kind of how they find sensory stimulation. And there's some activities associated with this oral stage that would be breastfeeding and teething. During this stage, Freud believed that infants need to feel safe and secure. Obviously, that is very well known that infants need to feel attachment to their caregivers. They need to feel that their needs will be met, and they need to feel secure. Also at this stage, it's interesting, as infants are growing older during this stage, they are becoming less dependent on their caregiver for their basic needs. For example, when an infant is just born, they need a caregiver for all of their basic needs. But once they hit that 1 year or 18-month mark, they are able to do some more things on their own. They might be feeding on their own. They might be exploring some things on their own. So that was something that happened during the oral stage. The second stage is the anal stage, and this is between the age of around 18 months to about 3 years. And Freud believed that at this stage, the gratification or the stimulation came from the anus and the bladder. And at this stage, why he believed this is because the primary focus for children is on mastering the toilet training and mastering control of the anus and the bladder. And then Freud also believed that there was some conflicts that could occur at this stage. And he believed that would be due to the anal fixation. Freud believed that during the toilet training phase, if parents put extreme pressure or the child faced extreme anxiety around toilet training, they may become obsessed with cleanliness, perfection, and control later on in life, which he referred to as anal retentive. On the opposite spectrum of that is anal expulsive, which he believed was when there was lack of attention to toilet training, and he believed that this would lead to children becoming messy or disorganized that would carry on as a pattern later on in life. So on one hand, the extreme pressure would cause children to be anal retentive. And then the opposite end, where there's a lack of attention or lack of pressure or lack of focus on toilet training, these children would be anal expulsive. The next stage is the phallic stage, and this occurs from about 3 years to 6 years of age. And Freud believed that at this stage, children are becoming more interested in their bodies and they're starting to explore their bodies, specifically with an emphasis on the genitals. So they might be touching their genitals or asking questions about their genitals more than in other stages. And Freud believed here that their children had a sexual attraction to the parent of the opposite sex. And the terms that came out of this stage that you may have heard of before are the Oedipus complex and the Electra complex. The Oedipus complex would be if a male child, so a son, has an attraction to the mother. And the Electra complex would be a female child or a daughter having a attraction to the father. And these were what he believed were major conflicts that children are going through during this phallic stage. And Freud believed because of these complexes and these sexual attractions to the parent of the opposite sex, that children were trying to win over attention and desire from their parents. So they would be wanting to win over this bond that the parents may have between one another to win the attention. Phallic stage, the child is very interested in the parents. The emphasis is on the attraction and the need for attention from parents. The next stage is the latent stage, which is around 6 years up until puberty. And Freud believed at this point that the libido or that sexual interest became subdued. So that sexual desire is kind of dormant during this stage. He believed that children, instead of having these sexual interests, are more focused on school, hobbies, and interacting with peers. So peer time and peer relationships become important to children, and more so important in this stage than in other stages. Freud also believed that during this stage, children are drawn to play partners or peer playmates of the same sex. And lastly, Freud believed that role models or interests that children had were more so outside of the family unit. And this is new in this latent stage. The phallic stage, there was that obsession to have that attention from parents. In the latent stage, the role models, the attention is coming from outside of the family unit. The final stage is the genital stage, and this occurs from puberty until the end of life. So for this stage, this age frame varies due to when the child is experiencing the onset of puberty. And this can be different for everyone. It can be different for males versus females. So just important to note. During this stage, Freud believed that individuals become more compassionate about others. They're more focused on other people rather than on themselves. So they move from that egocentrism to having more emotions and empathy for others. Freud also believed that at this stage that individuals are engaging in physical and emotional relationships. So they may be experiencing physically intimate relationships, but also even with peers and in friendships, they're having that emotional intimacy. And Freud believed during this genital stage that the goal was to strive for long-term, meaningful, healthy relationship patterns. And the conflict in this stage is that Freud felt if there was conflict, individuals would not have those healthy relationship patterns. They would have short-term, unhealthy, toxic relationships that would carry on into their relationships as an adult. So that conflict in that stage is that individuals want to have long-term, healthy, supportive relationships. Those are all of the stages, and now we will jump into a practice question. An 11-year-old becomes very involved in clubs at her school. The child's mother becomes very concerned because the girl is not wanting to spend as much time with the mother and chooses activities with friends over family activities. According to Freud, what is the most likely stage the child is in? A, industry versus inferiority stage. B, latency stage. C, self-actualization stage. Or D, early onset puberty. So this question, basically, you need to know the different stages and what this entails for someone. So the correct answer for this practice question is B, the latency stage. And I will give you some clues that will help you determine why this is answer B. So remember, in the latency stage, children become interested in people or hobbies or things outside of the family unit. And while this mother is concerned about the girl not wanting to be with the family as much, it is normal for adolescents. Remember, this stage, the latency stage, is around 6 years old to 11 years old, which would fit with some of the things that are going on that are stated. And also, it's important that you know what is a Freud concept. Of these answer choices, A, B, C, and D, latency stage is the only one listed here that actually comes from psychosexual theory. So, important to know that the others might not be associated with Freud or are not correct for the specific answer choice. I hope that you found today's content helpful. Once again, I am here if you enjoyed today's session, and I also have more study content. I have a 7-session paid material package, and that is $80. And then I also sell individual sessions for $15. You can learn more about those sessions, what that entails, at the website listed below at Gumroad, or my contact information is here, megannicole26@gmail.com. My material is catered to audio and visual learners, and it's structured very similarly to my YouTube videos. I will present content, I'll walk through strategies, I'll walk through practice questions. And the 7-session series actually has over 15 hours of content. It is very robust. And in that purchase or any purchase of a single session or recorded series, you will have access to free study groups 2 times per month on a variety of different topics. So if you are looking for more paid study content, you can check that out. Also, in terms of my social work shorts, I try to put out content at least once a month. And if you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel for updates. And I always like to end by saying thank you for allowing me to be part of your studying journey. This is a very hard, exhausting process. And just remember that, putting in the effort to study is a step in the right direction. And be confident in yourself, and best of luck on your studying journey, wherever you may be. And remember that you got this. Thank you for tuning in.